The Cipher. We can't complete Supply Run without Cipher. We can't complete Lost City without Supply Run, so we gotta do Cipher. Consult with Lane about the gibberish writing. On a mysterious letter where I see a random bunch of non-words, Lane sees potential. Nothing else, I'm keen to hear what they have to say. Starting it here because I saw that there was a gate over here.
The officer's gate was guarded by arcs. Access through the loom gate was restricted.
Better not be telling me I can't take this loom gate back home. Weather-worn diploma. Enclave parchment well survives the elements, but exposure has not been kind. I can return home. Oh, you're not gonna chastise me on dying? You have some talk for me?
Do you read a lot of Scald's Tales, Kaz?
I do, as a matter of fact. When I can find a transcription. But I'll read just about anything I can get my hands on.
Any favorite storytellers?
Eloisa Farthing. She's a local writer back home. Actually, a lot of her stories are set in Dunbrennig. That's what I like about them. No matter where I am in the world, I can curl up with passages describing our rainy summers or stormy winters. And it's like I'm home.
That's beautiful. Though the weather in Dunbrennig sounds terrible.
It is. What about you? Are you much of a reader?
She loves to read. I don't know if Bryn loves to read, but share interest with my potential romantic partner.
Of course. Nothing better than curling up with a book by the fire.
Huh. Somehow I wouldn't have guessed.
I think it brings me back to my childhood, too. Not a lot happened in my hometown, so I spent a lot of my time reading or listening to stories from travelers and veterans.
Any favorite books?
Ooh, hard to choose. But maybe The Perennial Skirmish by L.M. Saunton. A fictionalized retelling of Carnhaven's fight for independence from the perspective of an Auburn teenager whose parents are lost in the war.
I haven't heard of it. I'll add it to my list. Sola, Lane, and I have something of an informal book club on the go. We can give you recommendations.
Good to know. I'm surprised Dom isn't involved in that too.
He was, but his invitation was rescinded. The three of us would like to maintain a soothing mood during our meetups. He got too excited and spilled red wine on the pages of our first read, so...
I see.
Oh. Let the man read. Gotta rebuild it up because I thought, because I was thinking of my first playthrough, I thought I upgraded Dom's station, and I didn't. So, I really need that upgrade. And missing that jump really screwed me. You have any talk, Dom? Right, Lane. The Highland Ice Claw, so I guess let's find out. It's my first time taking one down, so I gotta find out how to claim its strand. Skipping ahead. Gotta look for the word locus. I don't want to read through this whole thing. Just tell me where the locus part is. Effective of other eggs between our... I gotta break its legs if I want to harvest. Okay. So the legs are the focus. Let's do a talk first.
After seeing the Spire, I can't help but wonder how effective the Enclave's governance was. Did their system work? Was it better than what we have across the Maida? Many questions present themselves.
Do any answers present themselves?
Well, we have the raw facts. If I recall correctly, their government was run by a council that varied in size through the years. At the top of the pecking order were the eye, the spindle, and the axle, all representatives voted in by the council members or various guilds. The documentation currently available to me is rather lacking in detail, though. The succession processes, for example, are unclear.
How does it compare to what you have at home?
Undoubtedly more functional, I'll give it that. The Udean Federation is, to put it plainly, a mess. To the point where our unofficial national dish is a specially prepared meringue that lasts approximately 10 seconds before collapsing.
You alright?
I know we're talking politics, but truth be told, all I can think about now is food.
Kaz might have gathered some herbs. You could try sweet-talking her into mixing something up.
In that case, I think I'll go bother her for a late breakfast. You can't do archival work on an empty stomach, after all.
No, you can't. But what you can do is, tell me about this cipher so I can feel like I've accomplished a mission, please.
You wanted to talk about the supply orders?
Indeed. It's about the gibberish along the bottom. Notice how the writing is in a different hand.
I noticed that. Also, the orders are all written by different people, but the random words are the same handwriting.
We're looking at a cipher. Someone sharing encoded notes.
Okay, what's the code, Primer?
Can you give me a quick rundown on encoding so I'm sure I'm following?
A favorite topic of mine? Cipher is a blanket term for securing text so that only an intended recipient can read it. They range from reasonably simple swaps of letters to complex changes that require devices or key sheets to solve. But, as notes quickly added to supply orders, the codes we are dealing with were simple by necessity.
What's your experience?
What's your background with Cypher's Lane?
There's something of a hobby for me. Specifically, breaking them.
A fan of knowing secrets.
More a fan of information being shared freely. But also, yes, Udean nobility relies on them heavily, and being privy to the dirty laundry of the nobles is advantageous.
How are you certain it's a code?
You're sure we're dealing with a code and not just doodles?
While possible, it's not likely that someone would scrawl nonsense on the bottom of official orders. Why do so? To practice calligraphy? To refine their writing? Perhaps. But this is decidedly not calligraphy. Ergo, cipher.
You don't know. What if they're just very proud of their bad handwriting? Alright, what do you think?
Any initial guesses as to what the cipher says?
Hard to say exactly, but what we know is these orders were for Scout Group 23. So let's assume there is an organized group of Hearthsiders arranging these drops. At a guess, this was an unofficial channel of information passed to those in the field.
Information that would be invaluable to us.
Agreed. Why encode text if it's not significant?
Alright, I'll keep hunting, even though I now have all 3 codes.
Sounds like we have a cipher to break. I'll keep hitting dead drops.
Any code is easier to break with more samples. You can work on it like any other research project.
Cover samples of ciphered writing from the supply drops.
Solar, Lane. What are you reading?
A Brook Boundless. It's a pastoral, though a rare post-surge work that incorporates light references to magic.
Oh, I thought there'd be more to that. So recover samples of ciphered writing from the supply drops, then assemble the runner's cipher codex with Lane. I believe I'm good to do that now. Lane thinks we're looking at a code of some sort that seems reasonably confident. Oh, and seems, not that seems, and seems reasonably confident we can crack it if they have enough samples. Once I've secured the samples... Do I have enough? Codex compiling. Runner's cipher. I have enough, so it's only 3. So why couldn't this just be part of the supply run mission, is my thing. Why is this a separate mission? I will read this because it's short, and because it is story related. Encryption is always a delicate balance between odds of discovery, intensity of encryption, and you don't use the definition within... I mean, it's not a definition, but you wouldn't say encryption and then part of the delicate balance of encryption is the intensity of the encryption. Just use a different word. And circumstances of discovery. Our runners apparently recognized the odds of discovery were low, and having to pass messages out in the field opted for a reasonably simple rotational cipher. Perhaps it was one they learned as children and repurposed to communicate in a way the Enclave leadership wouldn't find. While the notes are considerable shorthand, taken together they make it clear and not all is well with the Hearthsiders. Suspicions were running high, and supply acquisition seems to have become steadily more dangerous over time.
Yes, and if the R is with the numbers of false increment that just indicates spaces... Ah!
Got it?
Yes. I'll translate all that we have and we can discuss it with Casmin.
Good stuff, Lane. We need all the information we can get.
And valuable insight into post-surge society that developed here.
That finishes the cipher, so again, why couldn't that just be part of Supply Run? Why did that need to be its own mission? Okay.